Hey, welcome to AP 101 Guitar. This is a crash course in guitar, focusing on the Apostolic Pentecostal method and way that we play guitar. Guitar is a little bit of a difficult instrument when you first start playing, especially if you're playing, starting off on an electric guitar. It can be a little tough on the fingers at first, but you'll get used to it. I recommend finding a good acoustic guitar to get started on, but for the purpose of you being able to hear this music and the sound a little bit better, I've chosen to demonstrate on an electric guitar. The notes, the strings are exactly the same. The only difference is an acoustic one is acoustic. In other words, you can only hear it. You can't usually plug it in unless it's a dual acoustic and electric guitar. This one, if I'm not plugged up to an amp, you really will not be able to hear what I'm doing, but of course with an amp I can make it a lot louder, and that's basically the only difference between the two. They have a little bit of a different sound, but for the most part, same instrument, same guitar. Okay, so let's get started. How are we going? Let's start off first of all with the parts of the guitar. There are three main parts that you want to know on the guitar. Of course, first of all, you have what's called the head, and you can look at your study info for going into more detail of all the different parts of it. But you have basically here what is called the head, this part here, from here up. These are where you tune your guitar. If you don't have an electric tuner, I would recommend getting one. Or what you can do is, if you want to just make sure your guitar is just relatively in tune, if maybe you're out on the missions field or doing something out of country, out of state, out in the country, and you just don't have access to electricity, or you lost your electric tuner or something, who knows, you can do it this way. Basically just play that 5th fret right there, and then that 5th fret note is going to be the same note as the next string, okay? And you can move down, okay? Same concept until you get to the 4th string, then it's the 4th fret. Now you're probably wondering at this point, okay, so what's a fret? Let's go ahead and finish our study on the parts. This is the head up here. These are how you tune it. This is what we call the neck right here. From here, pretty much all the way down, this wooden part here in the middle with the little dots and the iron parts. And then you have down here what's called the body of the guitar. Okay, now basically the way it works, the main parts that you need to know, I'm not going to go over and just totally take the guitar apart and all the different things that it does. Basically what you need to know is these iron bars right here are called frets. Okay, so this part right here, from here to here, is called a fret. Now you don't want to ever play on top of the fret. You want to play right in front of the fret. Okay? See how I'm doing right here? I'm not actually on top of the iron, which if I did kind of creates a funny sound. Hear the difference? It sounds a lot better when you play it right before the iron part. Okay? But this is fret number 1, fret number 2, fret number 3. Most guitars have a dot on the 3rd fret. Number 4, number 5, there's usually a dot on the 5th one also, and the 7th, and so on and so forth. It goes all the way up. Okay, so let's go ahead and learn what are the notes. What are the notes on a guitar? And I'm just going to start this completely from scratch. The notes, just like there's a regular alphabet, there is also a musical alphabet. Now the difference in the musical alphabet is it stops at the letter G. So you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then it repeats all over again. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. The white notes on a piano, if you ever look at on a piano, those are the basic alphabet notes. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. The first note on the piano is an A. On the guitar, you don't have that luxury of seeing that. The black notes, however, are what are called sharps and flats. On the guitar, you're really just going to have to kind of memorize where these notes are. This will come eventually with more time and with more learning. But for the most part, as opposed to just learning a lot of the notes, we're just going to learn a few of them here just to get you started. Let's first of all learn the notes of the names of the strings. So you have the top string here. This is the thickest one. This is called an E string, okay? The top one is an E string. The next one down, the second from the top, is an A string, A. Third one is a D, okay? The 4th one from the top is G. The 5th one from the top is B. And the 6th one, the very bottom one, is an E. The very thinnest string is also an E. So the top and the bottom are both E notes. Okay, so once again, E, A, D, G, B, and then E. Okay, and very important to make sure you're tuned up. So get that electric tuner at your nearest store and make sure that you're tuned so that when you're playing with me, it's not gonna drive you crazy. Okay, so a couple of notes that that we're going to need to learn first of all. If this is E, your first fret is going to be F, okay? That note on the very first string, on the first fret is F. And of course you can look at the diagram in your lesson to study this also. The third fret on the E string is G, okay? So E, F, G, E, F, G. Alright, those are a couple of important ones to learn. And once again, it's great to study the diagram, try to get these in your head as much as possible. We're just going to learn the basic, just plain notes, no sharps and flats right now. We'll go into that in a little bit later. Okay, so E, F, G, G is the third, A is the fifth, B is the seventh, okay, and then C after B, which is the eighth, and then D, okay, D is the 10th here, and then you'll see it usually has double dots on the 12th fret. That's also going to be an E. It starts all over again, same note as the string, E, okay, so E, once again, F, G, A, B, C, D, and E, okay? Very important to learn those, okay? The top string is the very most important string to learn these notes on. Okay, now there are also things in music called sharps and flats, okay? Now sharp basically means you're going to go up from a note. You can think about sharp, going up, attack is sharp, and it points up. If you sit on it, it's really going to hurt. So sharp means go up. So this is an F. This is an F sharp. Okay, the very next note between F and G. Remember, G is your third fret. So F, F sharp is the second fret, then G. Okay, now this is G. Go up again. That's going to be a G sharp. All right, G sharp right there. If you go up to A and go up to the next note, to your sixth fret, that is going to be A sharp. The note right after A is A sharp. Okay, B. Now there, it's not technically, it is a B sharp, but there's no B sharp. Instead it's C, B to C, B to C. You'll notice that with two of the notes, there's no E sharp. Instead it goes E, F, and there's no B sharp. Instead it goes B, C. Okay? Now we go up to C. Next note after C is C sharp. Next note after D is D sharp, and then we're back all over again at E. Okay? We went completely around. Alright, so basically things to remember. The only one that doesn't have, only two don't have a sharp are E and B. Okay, those both go straight to the next alphabet letter, but everything else is going to have a sharp. Sharp means go up, which means you're going up this way. This is up on the guitar right here. This is up because the higher you go, the louder and the higher it gets. Okay, when you go down, this is down. You can hear it has more of a down sound. Okay, so what are flats? Sharp. Now, sharp basically looks like a tic-tac-toe symbol or a pound sign. That's what the sharp symbol is. You'll see it in your study info. A flat just means to go down. That's easy to remember too because the ground is flat. The ground is down. So you can think go down for flat. So if we have a G, go down, that's a G flat. This is A, which is your fifth fret, remember? Go down is A flat. If you have a B, go down, this is B flat. Now, it's very, very important, once again, I can't stress this enough, to memorize the notes on the top string because we're going to start learning things called bar chords, which are going to be your secret code to playing apostolic music in any key. It's the easiest way to make a chord that there is. Aside from, you don't want to have to memorize all these different crazy fingerings and chords. This is the easiest way to learn and make chords, bar chords. We'll learn those in the next couple of lessons. Okay, so once again, B, B flat. Okay, B, B flat. Now C, remember, B and C have that special relationship. There's no C flat and there's no B sharp. Instead, C goes down to B, B goes up to C. Same thing as E and F. There's no F flat. Instead, F goes down to E, and E goes up to F. E and F and B and C. Remember those two. Those have the special relationships there. All right, you have D, D flat. Now D is your 10th fret. D flat. And then you have E, once again, starting all over where it has the two dots. On most guitars, E goes down to E flat. Okay? So hopefully this is kind of making sense. Not too much information for you all at one time right now. But those are just memorized. If you can memorize just the notes on that top string, you are well on your way to learning how to play the guitar. Okay, great. So now let's learn a couple of chords. Chords are really how we play music in church. There's two main kind of chords. There's major chord and there's a minor chord. We'll learn about the difference, more about that later, about how they're truly different. But basically what we're going to do now is just memorize a couple of different chords and learn a little exercise song. Okay, so G major chord is the first one we'll learn. And basically the way you play a chord is you're going to hold down multiple notes on strings and play them all together. Okay, now if you look at the diagram that's in your study information, you'll notice that we're using the numbers here. Okay, there's a little diagram there, and if you look at it, there's a 3 on the 3rd fret. That means you're going to hold down the 3rd fret with your 3rd finger. That's what the 3 stands for, is your 3rd finger. Okay, there's a 2 where the black circle is on the 2nd string, 2nd fret. That means you're going to use your 2nd finger, which is your pointer finger, on the 2nd fret, 2nd string. And then there's also a 4 on the very last thinnest E string, which is on tells you it's on the 3rd fret and using your 4th finger. Okay, so you hold all those notes down and make sure you hold them down tight and don't hold them on top of the frets. Another thing to watch for is what you want to make it sound like is this. You want to be able to hear every note nice and crisp. Now you'll notice that there's some small circles over the other strings where you don't have a finger playing. That means you're leaving those open. You're playing those as an open string. When you play something as an open string, you basically just play it and just let it ring. Okay, that's an open string. The notes where the strings where you're holding fingers down on the frets, those are not open. We're playing notes on those strings. And you'll notice you might not hear every single note when you're playing it. Notice how you can hear every note very clearly and distinctly. If you hear this sound or that sound, that means one of these fingers, you need to hold it up a little bit straighter, because what's going on is or if you have big fingers, that happens sometimes too, but it's not impossible to cure. But basically, what you're going to make sure is that one of the other fingers is not hitting one of the other strings and causing it to make a dud sound, just causing it to just cut it off. You know, that can happen if you have one finger that's hitting one of the other ones. Then you go to play the chord, and it's going to sound a little bit like that. So practice. It might take a while. This is one of the toughest parts, is making your fingers obey you. But practice playing it until it sounds nice and crisp, and you can hear every single note, at least for the most part, because it may take some time getting that down. Okay, so that's a G major chord. There's also the next main chord is going to be a C major chord. Okay, and basically same thing here. Now you'll notice in the diagram in your lesson there's an X over the top string. That means when you strum, when you use this hand to strum, and basically all I do is, you can use a pick if you prefer. I kind of prefer just using my finger. It's just what they call finger picking and strumming. When I strum, I basically use my thumb like that, just going down, just kind of letting it slide over all the strings right there, not up here, but down here. Sounds better. You can also use your fingernails like this. If you want to create, a real nice, solid, kind of like you're using a pick sound. It sounds really nice. But for slower songs, I tend to use my thumb. And you can go up or down. Okay, that'll take some practice too. A lot of different techniques you can use for that. I typically just use it like that, just for good basic church playing. If you're into the heavy guitar stuff, which we don't use a whole lot in church, at least not in my style of music, then you can use a pick or something. Okay, so once you get that down, let's go to the C major chord. Remember, at the top is an X. That means you're not going to strum that top string. You're only going to strum from the bottom 5 down. Okay, so now look at the diagram. It says you have a black circle on the 2nd string, 2nd string, 3rd fret, which is right here, and you have another black circle on the 3rd string, the D string, on the 2nd fret. You have an open one on the next string, and then on the B string you have the 1st fret being played, and then the last string is also open once again. And notice there's an X, so make sure you only strum the bottom 5 strings when you play, not like the G chord where you strum all 6. Make sure you can hear every note clear, distinctly. If you hear this sound, where you're hitting some extra notes, or where you're holding down on one of the other strings, make sure that you don't do that. Okay, The next chord we're going to learn, the last chord we're going to learn in this lesson, is a D major chord. Now, okay, here's what's so great about these three chords. You can play almost any song in the world with these three chords. You can play Mary Had a Little Lamb, you can play Amazing Grace, you can play almost any song in the world just using these three chords, G, C, and D. And we'll go into more about that later and how that works and why it works like that. Of course, we will be teaching you some stuff in different keys too, so don't worry about that. All right, so D major chord is the next one we're going to learn. Now notice the top two, E and A, are both have X's over them, so we're not going to play either one of those. For a D major chord, we're only going to play the bottom four strings. All right, now the first one is open, which is your D string. The next one is your second fret on your G string there is going to be played with your first finger. And then on the B string, on the third fret, you're going to use your third finger. And on the last E string, on the second fret, you're going to use your middle finger. Okay? All right, remember 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how the fingering works. Pretty simple to remember. All right? Make sure you can hear them all clearly. That one can be a little tough to get down. And once again, I remember when I first started playing, and especially if you have an electric guitar, I mean, these strings, it was actually the same guitar that I started learning on. But these same strings, they tore my fingers to pieces. And I could only practice, I love to learn, but I could only practice like 10 or 15 minutes because the strings tore my fingers so bad. But eventually calluses will get there, you'll get blisters, probably it's going to hurt, and you won't be able to practice very long. But, you know, really, that's why I recommend starting on an acoustic guitar. But if this is all you have, you know, do the best with what you have. All right, so that's a D major chord. All right, so once again, just play the bottom four strings. Now, the way we do the music in this course, that one reason I like to do it like this is that it's very similar to how we do it in church. It's almost like a replica of doing it in church. But the way we do the rhythm is you're going to see slashes. These slashes are basically rhythm marks. So if you see like a G slash slash slash, like on the last page of your lesson, that's basically saying play it for 4 beats. Okay, G is the first beat, that tells you what chord it is, and then you have 3 slashes, 2, 3, 4. So you can do 1, 2, 3, 4. You can count like that, or what you'll actually do when you play it is play it like this, and you'll have to forgive me because I use a couple more advanced fingerings here, so getting back to the simple ones can be difficult. If I slip up and go to one of my other ones, forgive me. 2, 3, 4, G, 2, 3, 4, okay? The next place in the song goes to C. One thing I like to do is mute it real quickly when you're going to the next chord to make sure that you don't give any overlap of notes, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, back to G. There I go using my normal chords. Alright, 2, 3, 4, G, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we're going to go down to D. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and end it on a G. Okay, and that's pretty much all there is to it. Now, one thing, I probably shouldn't show you this because it may confuse you, but one thing I'm going to show you that really helped me out when I was learning how to play, there's a couple of shortcuts you can use for G and C. And what they basically are is you have G, B, you can play the G chord a couple of different ways. And if you basically play it with a G, B, just like normal, but then use your third finger to play the third fret on the B string, and use your pinky finger to play the third fret on the E string. It sounds a little more full on the G. And then when you need to go to C, here's your shortcut. Just move over your middle finger and your pointer finger. Just over one note. Okay? And that'll basically be your middle finger will be on the third fret of the A string. Your pointer finger will be on the second fret of the D string. It's a lot better transition there. And you hear how I'm muting that? G, C. I kind of just palm it. Kind of exaggerating it here, but and it really, if you don't do that, that's what you'll get. You'll hear some reverb, and it won't sound quite as good. All right, cool. So now let's write our own song. You've learned these 3 chords. Now let's actually write our own first song. This will be the last thing we do here. So you have G, C, and D. Now the way that music works is, and I'll explain more about this later, but G basically, we're playing in the key of G here, and we'll learn more about this later, but G is your 1 chord. Just remember this, C is your 4 chord, D is your 5 chord, okay? So G is your 1, C is your 4, D is your 5, and we'll learn more about that later, why it works like that. So what you're basically going to do is you can play any song in the key of G, any song in the world using these 3 chords. All right, so take that, write your own song. Basically, just make up your own progression. Maybe instead of starting with G like we did an exercise song, start with C, then go to D, and then go to G, or however you want to do it. Just make something up. And what I would advise is not trying to make it sound good. Instead, just write it, print out your homework, or print out your study info, write it on there, and just make up a random order. And try to make both of these 2 lines the exact same progression so it actually sounds like a real song. And then go through and play it, see how it sounds. And you notice it has you playing each one of these 2 beats. You can play them 4 beats, 3 beats, 2 beats, however you want to do it. The point is just get involved, learning these chords, how they work, how they sound, different progressions. Music it has rules, but then again, it doesn't have rules. You can kind of make it up. And this is kind of where being creative and getting, like making up your own music is coming from, which is half the fun of playing. So anyways, if you have any questions, feel free to email me or to call me. Church music can be a lot of fun. It can really be a blessing to other people. Be sure also to ask God to help you to bless your ministry. That's very important. I would not want to not mention that. Be sure to pray and ask God to bless you, to anoint you in anything you do. David was the greatest musician that we find basically in the Word of God. He was a man after God's own heart, and we find that he was anointed, he was blessed, and you want to make sure to have that anointing and blessing on your playing on your music, because if you don't, when you sing it, people aren't going to feel anything. They're not going to feel the love and the anointing of God. Whereas if you pray and ask God to bless you, God will give that to you, and He'll also help you learn faster. Once again, call me or email me if you have any questions, and we'll see you back here again for Lesson 2, where we're actually going to be learning some of our first church songs on the guitar. God bless. We'll see you in the next lesson.